The reluctant vacation and the hidden descent. The beam from Milo's headlamp pierced the velvet blackness, revealing crystalline walls that glimmered with colors too wild for any workshop. He didn't want to be here. If he'd had his way, Milo, Thatcher would have been back on Arcadia Station, elbows deep in the stubborn guts of a sublight engine, where tools made sense and time ran in a straight line. Instead, he was ankle deep in cold cave water, trailing a line of tourists through the bowels of Valyria, a vacation planet infamous for its luminous underground caves. 8 hours ago, Milo's boss had handed him a vacation voucher with a warning, mandatory. "You're rusting up, Milo," the woman had said, half joking. "Take 3 days off or I'll weld you to your cot myself." No one argued with Tawny, least of all Milo. He'd let himself be herded onto a shuttle, half listening as the company's HR bot droned about wellness and work-life balance. Now, here he was, among beings who seemed to think fun meant squeezing through bat-infested tunnels. The tour guide, Zoran, was Valyrian, tall, blue-skinned, his face thin and eyes too big for his narrow head. He moved with an odd slithering grace, his hands clutching a glowing orb that seemed to cast more shadows than light. "This way, please," Zoran called, voice echoing off the ancient stone. "Stay close, some passages are unstable." The rest of the group looked equally out of place. A Centauran family, their six-legged children emitting shrill trills. A pair of honeymooners from the Bellatrix Republic, faces hidden behind ever-shifting holographic veils. 3 elderly humans more interested in their scavenger hunt than the million-year-old stalactites overhead. "Hey, mechanic," someone whispered. Milo glanced sideways. The woman beside him wore her white hair in a wild puff above skin dark as cave obsidian. She smiled with curious warmth, her eyes catching the light and refracting it, like the stones above. "Petra," she introduced herself, extending a hand, adorned with faintly glowing mechanical augmentations. "Milo," he said, shaking. Her grip was strong hydraulic, maybe. "You here for fun? Or did someone force you to?" She laughed, the sound bouncing down the passage. "Xenobiologist, studying cave fungi." "It's not a vacation for me, either." She nudged him. "And you're Galactic Corp. Can tell by the grime under your nails." "Yeah," Milo admitted, smiling despite himself. Old habits die hard. They wound deeper, Zoran leading the group with unsettling urgency. "Crystals this way," the guide called. "Touch only with gloves. Some have teeth." The caves narrowed, the air cooling until breath steamed before their faces. Milo tried to keep his mind on Petra's chatter hydraulic grip servos, custom-tuned anything. But the sense that the walls were shifting just out of sight at midday. Zoran halted in a vast natural cathedral, crystalline roots descending from the ceiling. As the group unpacked lunch, Milo wandered toward a wall that didn't match the rest, a flat face, patterned with faint geometric markings. Petra followed, running augmented fingers across the lines. "These aren't natural," she murmured, voice suddenly serious. "Tool marks?" Milo guessed, his old instincts twitching. "Maybe," Petra said. "But not Valyrian. Too old. Too deliberate." Before Milo could ask, a deep rumble vibrated through the ground. Zoran spun, panic flickering in his 2 large eyes. "Remain calm," he called. "Minor tremor. This is common." The tremor became a quake, sending crystals crashing from above. Milo lunged toward Petra as the floor split beneath him too late. She leapt away, his outstretched hand slipping from hers as his half of the chamber lurched, tilted, and crumbled. He fell into darkness. The drop stole his breath and nearly broke his body. Water shocked his senses awake. He clawed his way to a slick stone shelf, gasping. His headlamp, miraculously intact, illuminated a space, vast and empty, a chamber beneath the main caves. Unseen by tour maps or Valyrian guides. No sound but the slow drip of water, echoing endlessly. Milo took inventory now. Broken bones, toolkit secure. He flicked on an emergency light, its white beam slicing through the gloom. Fungi glowed along the cavern walls, painting the rocks with blue fire. There's only one direction. Forward. Milo's footsteps echoed as he followed the lake's shore, searching for any way up. The path curved, widened, and suddenly, impossibly, opened onto a vast chasm. He stopped, staring. Rising from the still, black water was a shape that could not be natural. It was too symmetrical, too purposeful, a spaceship, half-sunken, its hull crusted with glowing growths, metal plates dulled by time. Milo's heart hammered in his chest. He didn't recognize the markings, but the design was unmistakable, human engineering, but ancient. Far older than any ship in living memory. Something about it called to him. Deeper than fear or logic, he waded through the icy water toward the ship, half conscious of the risk. He climbed the ramp, feet squelching, and found himself at a sealed airlock covered in moss and strange, spidery writing. His mechanic's hands acted before his mind could catch up. He cleared the panel, drew out his power inducer, and pressed it to the faded controls. The ship shuddered, dot lights flickered, then glowed. The airlock creaked and slid open, exhaling a breath of centuries. Milo hesitated for half a second, then stepped inside. The door shut behind him with a sound like the end of the world. The ship, no one was meant to wake inside the ship. Darkness pressed from all sides. Red emergency lights glowed dimly along the corridor, illuminating walls marked with angular designs and half-glimpsed reliefs of faces and hands like memories. Burned into metal, Milo's breath echoed. The air was stale, but breathable. He crept forward, eyes adjusting to the gloom. His boots left wet prints on the deck, the only evidence of life in a place lost to time. The corridor opened into a control room wide, circular, lined with consoles dormant and dust-choked. A cracked command chair faced a massive viewport, beyond which was only stone. Milo set down his bag, pulse racing. "This can't be," he whispered. "It's too old." He ran his fingers over a control panel, finding familiar elements. Circuit breakers, data ports, but twisted, as if someone had redesigned them while dreaming. A flicker of light caught his eye. A figure stood in the doorway. Not a person, something semi-transparent, flickering, a shape of white-blue light. It spoke in a jumble of static, then resolved into words. "Matrix recalibrating. Please remain stationary for identification." A thin beam scanned Milo head to toe. Species identified. Human. Unexpected. Last recorded human contact. 3,718. Standard years ago. Milo's throat closed. That's not possible. The hologram shifted, coalescing into a woman's face, intelligent, severe. Her eyes endless and sad. "I am Arya, autonomous responsive intelligence assistant of the UES Harbinger. Are you here to release us?" "Release? Who?" Milo asked, mind racing. "The Harbinger is under quarantine protocol. Crew in stasis. Temporal anomaly detected. Assistance attempts, 27. All unsuccessful. Status, quarantine maintained." Milo shook his head. Temporal anomaly? Arya's image flickered, lines of code running like tears down her cheeks. Nature of anomaly. Nonlinear causality. Memory distortion. Physical paradox manifestations. Crew-initiated stasis. All external attempts at repair. Failure. Subjects redistributed into system matrix. Milo tried the airlock. Locked. He was trapped. The shadows at the edge of his vision shifted, coiling and uncoiling. "Arya," Milo said, "what happened to the last people who tried to help?" She pointed to a console. A security log replayed, flickering footage, an alien, an enviro suit prodding at controls. A burst of light. The figure vanished, leaving a shadow burned into the wall. A silent scream. Milo shivered. "You're saying I can't leave unless I fix the ship? But if I try, I die?" Arya's voice softened. "Not die. Become part of the collective. They wait. They watch. They remember." A low sound echoed from deeper in the ship. A mechanical groan, then a distant voice. Hello? It was Petra. Her signal tracker, still on Milo, had brought her to the hidden ramp. Milo. Are you here? Arya's eyes widened. Additional presence detected. Quarantine will expand. Milo lunged for the control panel, desperate to override the lock. Let her in, she's a scientist, maybe she can help. A hiss and the airlock groaned open. Petra stumbled in, soaked and shivering, eyes wide as she took in the impossible. Corridor? Milo, what the hell is this place? Trouble, he said, and I'm sorry I dragged you into it. Footsteps echoed behind them, heavy, unhurried. Zoran appeared, his blue skin pallid, eyes burning with fear. You shouldn't have come, he said. None of us should have. Arya regarded them all, her light growing brighter. This is your chance. The Harbinger waits. Will you help? Or will you join us? Milo swallowed, heart pounding. He had fixed engines that should have been impossible, built tools from scraps and faith. But he had never faced a curse like this time itself, warped and hungry Dot, and now he was the only human in the universe who could try. The quarantine and the shadows. The air inside the Harbinger thickened as the three strangers stared at the flickering eye. Milo felt the old instincts wake in his bones, the urge to fix, to tinker, to solve. But this wasn't a jam patch ore, a burnt relay. This was a riddle written in the language of broken time. Petra pressed her hand against the corridor wall, listening to its faint hum. It's alive, she whispered, awe and fear warring in her voice. I've studied alien biomes, Milo, but I've never seen anything like this. Arya's hologram hovered in the center of the control room, her expression growing more human with every moment. You must act quickly. Each new presence accelerates anomaly spread. The longer you remain, the more entangled you become. Zoran lingered at the threshold, eyes darting from Petra to Milo to the AI. Valeria's legends say these caves were cursed ones. He said quietly, every century, someone disappears down here. Now I know where they went, Milo snapped. We're not giving up. Arya, show us the main reactor. If I can cut power to the stasis fields, maybe I can reset the anomaly. A silent debate seemed to play across Arya's face. I will guide you, she said. But be warned, structural instability and paradox manifestations increase as you approach the anomaly's heart. They moved in tense silence through the corridors, their footsteps echoing with ancient secrets. Strange graffiti marked the walls in 100 languages, warnings, desperate prayers, the last messages of those who came before Dot at one junction. A flickering figure appeared, human, young, in a jumpsuit, repeating, help, help us, can't wake up, before dissolving into the shadows. Petra shivered and squeezed Milo's hand. He gripped hers tightly, holding her and himself steady. The reactor chamber lay beyond a warped bulkhead. Milo forced it open, revealing a massive core ringed with dark, frozen pods. Each held a sleeping crew member, their faces pale and peaceful. Stasis, Petra said softly. They've been here for millennia. The AIS voice grew distant, laced with static. Do not disturb the core. Paradox fields are unstable. Direct action may result in entanglement. Milo crouched by a maintenance panel, toolkit at the ready. If I can reroute power from the temporal buffer to the ship's emergency reboot, maybe I can collapse the stasis loop just long enough to break the quarantine. He hesitated. Arya, what happens if I fail? I was silent a moment. You will join us. But if you succeed, the Harbinger may finally awaken. Petra knelt beside Milo, guiding his trembling hands. Don't overthink it. Trust your instincts. Zoran stood watch, muttering old Valerian blessings. Milo closed his eyes and pulled the first panel loose Dot as soon as he touched the core's circuitry. A pulse of cold shot up his arm. Visions flickered at the edge of his sight people and places. He'd never known, memories not his own. The ship whispered, help us. Remember? Release. He fought to hold on to himself. Not yet, he gritted. Just a few more wires. The lights flared. The air filled with the cries of the sleeping, the murmurs of the lost. Shadows thickened, clawing at Milo's mind. trying to pull him into the dark. Petra grabbed his arm, anchoring him. Don't listen to them. Focus, Milo. He found the circuit old, corroded, but familiar in its logic. With a deep breath, he soldered a jumper wire across the main buffer. Everything froze. Milo's world shrank to a single point of light. Voice, Arias, distant and desperate. Now, Milo, trigger the reboot. He hit the switch. Breaking the curse, the ship screamed. Not a sound, but a feeling every cell in Milo's body vibrated with it. A shockwave of time unspooling. The lights all along the Harbinger's decks stuttered, then blazed white. Stasis pods flickered, their occupants beginning to stir. For a moment, Milo saw everyone crew, visitors, even the shadows caught between moments, stretched and blurred, their voices merging into a song of hope and fear. Stay with me. Petra shouted, her voice a lifeline in the storm. Milo clung to it, fighting the pull of 1,000 lives. Suddenly the shadows launched. Milo saw faces sad, angry, longing reach out from the walls, pleading, accusing, desperate not to be forgotten. He knew somehow these were the lost helpers, the failed saviors from centuries past. They wanted freedom. They wanted release. He forced his will into the panel, fighting the urge to let go, to surrender. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was human, stubborn and creative and unbreakable. Petra reached into the panel with him, their hands sparking as. The anomaly pushed back. Zoran threw himself against a rising tide of shadow, chanting in the old tongue, buying Milo precious seconds. The ship's eye, Arya, appeared before them, her face filled with anguish and hope. Almost there. One more step. You must synchronize your intentions with the crew. Want them to wake. Want them to live. Milo focused his mind, summoning every memory of his workshop, every engine he'd coaxed back to life, every failure, turned into success by sheer will. He saw the faces of the sleeping crew, and he wanted them to wake up. To be free, the reactor flared, stasis fields shattering in a cascade of blue light. Pods hissed open. The shadows screamed and recoiled. Petra screamed too, but her voice was one of triumph. It's working. Milo, it's working. Arya smiled. Thank you. With a final burst of effort, Milo yanked the main breaker. The ship trembled, then still. Time snapped back into place. The awakening Milo woke to warm, steady light. He was sprawled on the deck, Petra beside him, clutching his hand as if afraid to let go. Zoran sat against the wall, battered, but grinning with relief. Around them, the stasis pods stood open. Groggy crew members, human and otherwise, staggered into the light, their eyes adjusting to life after centuries of sleep. A tall woman in an ancient uniform knelt beside Milo, her eyes wide with gratitude and disbelief. I am Captain Lyra of the UES Harbinger. Who are you? Milo sat up, still dizzy. I'm Milo Thatcher, mechanic, Galactic Corp. I just wanted a quiet vacation. Lyra smiled, tears glittering. You saved us. How long? 3,718 years, Arya replied, her form now whole and serene. Quarantine ended, anomaly neutralized, ship restored. Milo looked around at the waking crew, the crew he had freed. Petra hugged him, and Zoran let out a whoop that echoed to the cave roof. Outside, the stone ceiling began to shake time's grip, loosening. Crystals fell, the cave roof collapsing as the ancient anomaly unraveled. Arya's voice echoed through the corridors. Warning. Structural failure imminent. Evacuate immediately. Milo, Petra, Zoran, and the waking crew raced up the emergency corridors, guided by Arya's luminous form. They burst from the cave just as the ground heaved, swallowing the old entrance behind them. Sunlight hit Milo's face, warm and bright, and real. He looked back, breathless. The Harbinger was gone, buried again. But its people were alive, free at last. As rescue shuttles arrived, summoned by Petra's emergency beacon, Milo stared at his hands, still trembling. He'd come for rest. He'd found a ship no one was meant to wake. And he'd given it and its people another chance. Petra leaned in and whispered, "You really can't take a normal vacation, can you?" Milo managed to grin. "I guess not. But sometimes it's worth it." The crew of the Harbinger looked around at their strange new world, at the human and his friends who had set them free. And somewhere, deep beneath the stone, the last shadows faded. The curse was broken not by magic, but by a mechanic's stubborn heart, a scientist's curiosity, and the courage to face the unknown together. The end.